I want to talk about Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans and the fact that I will be monitoring Cam Ward's progress throughout training camp. You know, we're not going to get a ton of clues as to how good he can be as a rookie, but nevertheless, I do want to read these reports. And the reason I bumped this up, Scott, is because like nobody talks about the Titans, okay? Like I feel like Cam Ward, it's so stupid to say this because he was the first overall pick, but I feel like we're not talking about Cam Ward enough. And I honestly think that it's not super clean, but there's a lot of similarities to Cam Ward, if he comes in and just is ready to rock and hit the ground running right away, that he can have a pretty similar effect to like what Jayden Daniels did for the Commanders last year. Nobody was thinking that the Commanders could be a great offense. They ended up being a top 5 offense by basically every metric last year. I think it would be a huge jump for the Titans to go from where they were last year to being in that range, but maybe Cam Ward can give us a Bud Light version of that. And if that's the case, like if he does that, neither Calvin Ridley nor Tony Pollard goes in the top 20 picks. People have kind of forgotten that Chig Okonkwo ended the season pretty well last year. And there's like some interesting depth wide receivers here. You know, they have Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett on the roster, but they also added 3 rookies, Chimere Dike. They added Alec Iomanner. They added Xavier Restrepo, who Cam Ward played with. Like there is some intrigue in this offense in front of it, like a rebuilt offensive line. So I think there could be some sneaky fantasy value for this Tennessee Titans offense. Cause Scott, like I went back and charted Calvin Ridley for reception perception. I think he was really good last year in isolation, and he was productive too. Like he had 1,000 yards in that terrible offense. Why can't he take a step forward and beat these projections that we're showing here of 928 yards when he quite literally did it last year with horrible quarterback play? So it's a lot to rely on a rookie to do all of these things. And I'm not saying that I'm going to project and rank it that way, but I do think it's within the range of outcomes. And I don't think that is being given enough credit here when we're talking about the Titans right now.
Yeah, great call out to Tennessee in the Ward situation. And for everybody who says fairly so, well, why do you compare him to Jayden Daniels? That's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Well, the previous season, C.J. Stroud broke all expectations in Houston and was much better than advertised ahead of schedule. Now, everything went wrong for Houston the following year, although they still made the playoffs. Right. You're going to take your opponents to Value Town with the Titans if Ward is competent, because Ridley set up to be a screaming value. Tony Pollard set up to be a screaming value. I love what you said about Chig Okonkwo, especially if you're in any kind of league that has some kind of tight end premium or tight end incentives. Okonkwo's always been a downfield guy I've been interested in. And last year, maybe you had the schemes, but not the players to execute the stuff they wanted to do most of the time because the quarterback play wasn't there. We all thought Ward was going to be the day one starter, but now that Levis is out for the year, that just kind of makes it all the more obvious that he's going to be playing. And you're right. It is a little bit of there are years where the number 1 pick has a little bit more buzz. I think maybe because of Hunter being that unicorn player and the big trade that Jacksonville and Cleveland put together to get Hunter into Jaguar uniform, maybe that's offset a little bit. No, it's just Tennessee. It's they've had success as a franchise, but it's not the Packers. It's not the Cowboys. It's not the Patriots. It's not the Jets. So maybe the Steelers. One of these legacy franchises. So I get sometimes that they get the second part of the page, or they go under the fold, as you would say in newspaper terms. But I think Ward's going to be competent right away. I think this is going to be an offense, a bunch of ADP beaters, right? And let me make something very clear here, because you're going to hear a lot of this all summer. You got to win your league. This guy's a league winner, and this guy's a league winner. Okay, fine. There's a couple of guys who might be league winners, and it's really hard to identify who they are. The way you win fantasy leagues is you make better decisions than your opponents. You make plus decisions. You make plus EV moves. And a plus EV move is drafting Calvin Ridley, where they're allowing you right now in Yahoo leagues. A plus EV move is getting Tony Pollard on your roster, Cam Ward in a superflex format, stuff like that. There's all sorts of profitable plays here. And not every play has to be a home run. You get on base, you get a walk, a single, double. Those are all good things. Didn't everybody watch Moneyball, right? The whole key is getting on base, not necessarily about hitting a home run. You're going to have ADP wins in Tennessee. I want you to get some of these guys.
Yeah, and look, like Cam Ward might not be good as a rookie. I think that's obviously possible. Like rookie quarterbacks generally aren't good. But I think the situation here that he's walking into is a little bit underrated. Not only did I think Ridley was good last year, like way better in isolation than given credit for, I actually think the Brian Callahan offense, we just didn't get to see a lot of it because it was just manned by poor quarterback play. But actually the design of it was pretty good. And what they did to make the offensive line, maybe it's only an average offensive line. That's way better than having a rookie quarterback behind a bad offensive line. That's pretty critical. Mm-hmm. So Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 35 right now in consensus ADP. I think he's going to outproduce a lot of guys that are going ahead of him. And he's like a pretty good arbitrage play on somebody, like a Garrett Wilson who's going wide receiver 50. And I love Garrett Wilson, but he's, it's questionable quarterback play. He might be the only guy in town. It's very similar. And again, there's 20 spots in receiver ADP between the two of them.